Organizing Committee of the 18th Annual National Conference of Association of Industrial Psychiatry of India, I now request the following guests and dignitaries to come to the virtual dais for our lamp lighting ceremony. Professor Brigadier Dr. Daniel Saldana, Professor Padma Shri, Professor Dr. Mohan Agashe, Professor Brigadier Dr. MSVK Raju, Dr. N.J. Pawar, Dr. Yashraj Patil, Dr. Amarjeet Singh, Dr. Amarjeet Singh, Dr. Jaideep Patil, Dr. Colonel Suprakash Chaudhary,
Please, meeting. I have not found nothing. जो कुछ और घंटे कुछ नहीं कर
జూమ్ లో మీటింగ్ రెడీ ఉంది
Dr. Yashraj Patil, Dr. Bhushan Chaudhary, Dr. Kalpana Srivastav, thank you for joining. We are honored by your presence. We will now proceed with the lighting of the lamp. We now invite respected Brigadier Dr. D. Saldana to kindly give us the welcome address.
Distinguished dignitaries on the dais, invited guests from India and abroad, respected President, and distinguished members of the Association of Industrial Psychiatry of India, delegates, faculty members, residents, ladies and gentlemen. I feel honored and privileged to welcome you to the 18th Annual Conference of the Association of Industrial Psychiatry of India, being held on a virtual platform from 4th to 6th March 2021 at Dr. D.Y. Patil Medical College Hospital and Research Center, Pimpri, Pune, due to the ongoing pandemic. I am especially grateful to our beloved trustee and treasurer, Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth, Dr. Yashraj Patil, who in spite of his busy schedule, accepted our invitation to be with us. I am grateful to Dr. N.J. Pawar, the Vice Chancellor of our Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth, who agreed to be with us and delay his ongoing engagement for this function. I welcome Padma Shri Dr. Mohan Agashe, a renowned psychiatrist, a versatile actor of international fame, and a former director of MIMH and also director of Film and Television Institute of India. I welcome Padma Shri Dr. B.N. Gangadhar, though he is joining late, former Vice Chancellor of NIMANS and the President of Ethics at NMCI. I welcome Professor Afzal Dave, from UK, the former president of World Psychiatric Association. I welcome Dr. Sir Dinesh Bugra, former president of Royal College of Psychiatrists and former president of the World Psychiatric Association. I also welcome Dr. Renuka Prasad, former president of Canadian Psychiatric Association, Dr. Russell D'Souza, the chair of UNESCO Bioethics, Dr. Saibal Gua from faculty at Griffith University, Australia, Dr. Sarah Whittaker, and Dr. Samir Guliani from the Maudsley, UK, Dr. Nikhil Kisti, forensic psychiatrist and medical director, Signet Healthcare from UK, Dr. Arindam Chakravarti, faculty at Southern Illinois University School of Medicine, Illinois, USA. I welcome Dr. Gautam Saha, President of the Indian Psychiatric Society. I welcome Dr. Brigadier Amarjit Singh, the CEO and Director of Dr. D.Y. Patil Medical College, Pimpri, Pune. I welcome Dr. J.S. Bawalkar, the Dean of Dr. D.Y. Patil Medical College. I welcome Dr. Brigadier M.S.V.K. Raju, the President of AAPI, and Dr. Suprakash Chaudhary, the President-elect. I welcome Dr. Kalpana Srivastava, the Vice President, Dr. Jyoti Prakash, the Editor of Industrial Psychiatry of India, Dr. Bhushan Chaudhary, the Secretary, Dr. Jaideep Patil, the Treasurer and the Organizing Secretary, and all the former presidents of the Industrial Psychiatry of India, to name a few, Major General P.S. Waldia, Brigadier P.K. Chakravarti is with us, and Dr. M.L. Agarwal. I also welcome all the heads of the department of Dr. D.Y. Patil Medical College and all the heads of the departments of psychiatry and faculty of 5 medical colleges, AFMC, BJMC, Bharatiya Vidyapeeth, Kashibai Naule, and YCM Postgraduate Institute, who have supported us immensely. I welcome the residents, registered delegates from all over India and overseas, the Indian Psychiatric Society presidents, notably Dr. Indula Rama Subba Reddy, Dr. Avasti, and Dr. Vidyadhar Watway. All the undergraduate students from the medical colleges, nursing colleges, physiotherapy, and the Corvey Institute of Social Service. I am especially grateful to our overseas dignitaries. In spite of their busy schedule and time lag, they have chosen to be with us today. I welcome one and all of you for this academic feast of 3 days. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for addressing us today. We now have the honor of having Professor Dr. Afzal Javed address us. He has personally sent a message to us due to his inability to be present with us today. I request Dr. Jaideep Patil to kindly play the video sent to us by Sir.
Good morning and namaste. Dear office bearers of Indian Association of Industrial Psychiatry, friends and participants of the annual Congress. This is Dr. Afzal Javed, and I am bringing greetings from World Psychiatric Association. It is indeed a matter of great pleasure that Indian Association of Industrial Psychiatry is organizing its annual Congress. As we always say that mental and behavioral health problems and issues are important public health needs. The workplace mental well-being is very important and can be reflective of high achievements in different areas of output and financial and personal productivity. I have attended some of the previous meetings of this association and have always been impressed with the scientific content and, more importantly, coverage of relevant academic and clinical areas in the scientific programs. I wish I could be there, but because of the COVID and current travel restrictions, it is important that this Congress is taking place as a virtual meeting. I would like to assure that World Psychiatric Association is fully aware about this particular issue of industrial psychiatry. And I look forward to receiving recommendations, guidelines, and future directions for international psychiatry in this important field. I wish the participants and the organizers a real success and hope this effort will continue in coming years and making this aspect of clinical psychiatry more relevant, appropriate, and popular among all those who are involved in this branch of specialty. Thank you very much.
We thank Sir for his kind address to us. We will now invite respected Professor Brigadier Dr. M.S.V.K. Raju to kindly address our gathering today. Professor Dr. M.S.V.K. Raju is a veteran of the Armed Forces Medical Services of India. He is the current president of the Association of Industrial Psychiatry of India and the ex-president of Indian Psychiatric Society and SARC Psychiatric Federation. He is the board member and Zone 16 representative at the World Psychiatric Association 2017 to 2020. Chair Awards Committee, Indian Psychiatric Society 2020 to 2022, and an honorary member of the World Psychiatric Association. Formerly, he has been the professor and the head of Department of Psychiatry at Armed Forces Medical College, Pune, Bharati Vidyapeeth University Medical College, Pune, People's College of Medical Sciences, Bhopal, and an adjunct professor of research at the Interactive Research School of Health Affairs, Pune. He is the senior advisor and consultant at the Armed Forces Medical Services in Delhi and a commandant at the military hospital at Kirki. He also is the director of the Paraplegic Rehabilitation Center and Queen Mary Technical Institute at Kirki. Sir, may we please have you?
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Dr. Yashraj Patilji, Chief Guest of the conference, Dr. N.A. Pawarji, Professor Afzal Javed, President of the World Psychiatric Association, Professor Mohan Agashe, Professor B.N. Gangadhar, colleagues on the virtual dais, distinguished colleagues from across the world, and delegates. I once again welcome you all to this first ever virtual conference of the Association of Industrial Psychiatry of India, AIPI in short. 37 years ago, on one fine morning, sitting at faraway Bokaro in the then Bihar, 9 men of vision decided to establish a professional body to promote healthy minds at workplace. Today, we are big and burgeoning with near 600 members. The AIPI is a unique body where psychiatrists, other mental health professionals, industry managers, and professionals with interest in this field work together hand in hand to promote healthy minds in work industry. Industry, we all know, is a productive enterprise or organization that is involved in extracting raw materials, processing them into products, transporting, selling, and servicing the products, doing research and making policies for the furtherance of productivity. In this way, probably even politics is industry. In fact, in current times, we exist in a web of industries. Industry is classified in various ways, primary, secondary, tertiary, and so on, and manufacturing, service, and knowledge industry, and so on. But probably it is more pragmatic to think in terms of various sectors like farming, fishing, films, railway, military, education, manufacture, healthcare, and so on. Productivity, economy, and healthy minds are intimately interlinked. A thriving economy ensures good healthcare, nutrition, and education to the people, the very factors which are fundamental for healthy minds. Persons with healthy minds are more energetic, efficient, creative, and productive. It is universally accepted that $1 invested in caring for the minds at workplace gives a return of $4 in terms of enhanced efficiency, diminished absenteeism, increased productivity, and reduced healthcare costs. 80% of the 3.4 billion workforce in the world live in the low and middle income countries where health service focused on the mind are less than minimum. India has 500 million workers, 90% of which are in the unorganized sector. They are less educated, largely unskilled, and young. These factors have to be taken into account for promoting and sustaining healthy minds at workplace and at workers' home. Every sector of industry may have its own ensemble of psychosocial hazards. The stressors of aerospace industry will be different from that of agriculture. Similarly, the stressors of fishing industry will be quite different from that of film industry. We need to know them to deal with them. Much work needs to be done to know them. It is generally accepted that 1 in 5 industrial workers have some problem or disease of the mind. Healthy workplace culture, work-life balance, combating stigma, effective structures to identify worker distress, early intervention, and reintegration into the milieu are some of the measures that will militate against diseases of the mind and unhealth. The association can be justifiably boast of having some of the best minds in the business, endowed with experience and enthusiasm in equal measure. In the coming 4 or 5 years, I see a great leap toward collaborative clinical and sector-specific field research along with enhanced focus on psychiatric education. We believe the worker and the worker's family are a unit. This unit is fundamental in promoting healthy minds, at least in our country. In order to draw attention to these vital areas, we instituted 2 new awards this year. The organizers took great pains to chalk out an excellent program. We will have some brilliant minds speak to us on a wide range of issues, including IT industry, industrial sales, farming, fishing, drones, Navy, health industry, and whatnot. And of course, the current scourge, COVID-19. I am really grateful to all the distinguished speakers from abroad and from across the country for responding to our request at short notice. It is really heartening to see overwhelming response from young and emerging researchers. Ladies and gentlemen, you would have seen that I have scrupulously avoided uttering the 6-letter word mental. I detest this word. It is easier on the tongue, much misused, and promotes stigma like nothing else. I hope to see the day when it becomes obsolete. Over the years, we traveled a fair bit on the road of progress. Much lies ahead. Progress is not enhancing what is. Progress is knowing what is not and advancing towards what will be. I believe we have the will and we are on the way. Long live the Association of Industrial Psychiatry of India. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. We now have the privilege of inviting Dr. N.J. Pawar to grace us with a few words. Dr. N.J. Pawar is the Vice Chancellor of Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth. He has been a lecturer in geology, a full-time joint coordinator in the Department of Environmental Science, professor of geology and head of Department of Geology at University of Pune, and also the Vice Chancellor of Shivaji University at Kolhapur. He is the recipient of the Young Scientist Award and British Council Fellowship. He has numerous research publications under him, a total of 63, 18 of which are international and 45 of which are national. He is experienced in formulating NAC documents and in working with UGC committees. Besides his academic administration, Professor Pawar has made varied and significant research contributions in the field of geology in general and environmental geology, geochemistry, and hydrogeology in particular. In recognition of his research work, he was elected as a Fellow of Maharashtra Academy of Sciences, Fellow of the Geological Society of India, Life Member of Association of Hydrologists of India, and Life Member of Indian Mineralogical Society and Indian Geotechnical Society. Professor Pawar strongly believes that it is of prime importance to share knowledge and information with the local communities so that informed choices and decisions can be made for social good. Thank you, sir. May we please have you on screen?
Well, good morning to all of you. The chief guest of today's function and our dynamic trustee and treasurer, Dr. Yashraj Patil, the dignitaries on the dais, Dr. Mohan Agassi, Dr. Afzal Javed, Dr. Raju, my senior colleagues from the university, Dr. Pawalkar, Dean of Medical College, Brigadier Amarjit Singh sir, our former Dean, and former faculty at AFMC, other senior colleagues, faculty members, and the organizer of this particular conference, Brigadier Daniel Saldana, guests who have joined from abroad, students, faculty members, participants, and my dear friends. At the outset, let me extend warm welcome to all of you for joining on a virtual platform in the 18th Annual National Conference of Association of Industrial Psychiatry of India at the Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth. I am very happy to know that this particular conference is organized consecutively for second time on the premises of Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth, Pune. And therefore, let me take the opportunity of congratulating Dr. Saldana for making efforts in every possible way to reach out to nooks and corners of the globe in order to see how the psychiatry can contribute towards the current situation of pandemic due to COVID-19. And therefore, the topic of discussion for the 3 days of conference is very pertinent, and therefore I must also congratulate Dr. Saldana and his team for having chosen this particular topic. I know that large number of participants from across the globe and also from across the nation have joined this particular conference. Let me inform all of you about Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth.
Sir, we are unable to hear you. Pawai sir, I think
Yes.
your audio is on. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
As all of you are aware that Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth is a young university in the area of health sciences, and in a very short duration of time, it has made its impact across India and also many parts of the world in terms of its contributions in the area of health sciences, both in terms of teaching, learning, and research. The university is accredited as A grade consecutively 2 times, and in the second time accreditation, it has received the highest CGPA in India, which is 3.62 on the 4-point scale. As a result of this university is categorized as Category 1 university by UGC, Government of India. Also, there is a scheme at the national level which is launched by the Ministry of Education, formerly the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. This scheme is about ranking the institutions at national level. It is named as National Institutional Ranking Framework. And under this particular NIRF scheme, every year, thousands of different institutions participate in the ranking in India. Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth has been consistently and consecutively for 4th time has participated in the NIRF ranking of the Government of India. And in all these 4 years of its performance, you will find that as a university, we are in the top 50 universities. We are placed at 46th number amongst 1200 odd universities in India. Our medical college is in the top 25 medical colleges across India. Similarly, our dental college is in the top 3 dental colleges in India. And therefore, I am indeed very happy to know that the Association of Industrial Psychiatry has provided us an opportunity to host this particular conference at the premises of Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth. And therefore, on behalf of Honorable Chancellor, Dr. P.D. Patil sir, our Honorable Pro-Chancellor, Dr. Mrs. Bhagya Patil Madam, all the trustees and directors of Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth Society, on behalf of all my colleagues, students and faculty members, let me extend warm welcome to you for this particular event. Friends, I am given to understand that this particular conference will be held between 4th and 6th of March 2021 with a theme which is COVID and psychiatry. It is one of the most pertinent themes. I know that Dr. Sardana and also other colleagues of PSM departments during the lockdown period has taken several initiatives in terms of how to help those sections of the society, particularly migrant workers across India, in terms of sensitizing them during the lockdown period. Their contributions I appreciate. Similarly, this particular conference is being held under the aegis of Association of World Psychiatry and also the Association of Industrial Psychiatry of India. I am aware that this particular association had made a humble beginning in 1984 under the visionary leadership of Dr. S. Agarwal. Of course, his contributions will be ever remembered by the association. Subsequent to his sad demise, although there were some hiccups, the association is now coming forward in terms of conducting several such events in order to see that in different ways they can contribute for the social cause. Today, there are a lot of dignitaries, those who are going to discuss and debate on different themes and different topics. I know that Dr. Afzal Javed is also joined. He has already spoken. Dr. Dinesh Ogra is there. Dr. Prasad, Dr. D'Souza, Dr. Gangadhar, Dr. Behere, Dr. Chakraborty, as well as Dr. Bardia and Emil Agarwal. All along with them, our faculty member, senior faculty member, Dr. Saldana, is also taking lead in terms of contributing to this particular aspect of COVID-19 pandemic situation, in what way the psychiatry can contribute at global as well as national level. Let me once again congratulate Dr. Saldana for having organized this particular conference on the premises of Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapith. I'm sure that the discussions and deliberations that will take place will be very rewarding, very fruitful, and they will certainly encourage our youngsters, inspire our youngsters. I wish all the success to this particular event. Thank you very much for the opportunity given to me on this particular occasion. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind words, sir. We will now have the honor of requesting Dr. Yashraj Patil to kindly launch our e-souvenir. Dr. Yashraj Patil is the treasurer of Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapith, Pune. He is the associate professor of the Department of Radiodiagnosis in Dr. D.Y. Patil Medical College, Hospital and Research Center, Pimpri. As a trustee of Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapith, the young son of an admired father has always been an inspiration for his dedicated services to the betterment of masses and society. Dr. Yashraj Patil is an epitome of optimism and simplicity. As the city burgeons into a hospital city, DPU Hospital and Research Center, under his guidance, always stands tall. Could you kindly launch the e-souvenir, sir?
Do I have to open it or like what?
Sir, please. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
We now invite Dr. Jaideep Patil to propose the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon. It is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of Organizing Committee of 18th Annual National Conference of Association of Industrial Psychiatry of India. At the outset, we are extremely grateful to Honorable Dr. P.D. Patil Sir, Chairman of Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapith Society, Pune, for being a constant source of inspiration and permitting us to hold this conference at Dr. D.Y. Patil Medical College, Hospital and Research Center. I also express my gratitude to our respected Mrs. Bhagyashree Rai Patil, Vice Chairperson Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapith Society, for her guidance and encouragement. We are thankful to Dr. Somnath Patil, Secretary, Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapith Society, and for his constant support. We are also thankful to Dr. Yashraj Patil, Treasurer, Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapith Society, for his valuable support. We appreciate our respected Vice Chancellor Dr. N.J. Pawar for being extremely helpful, accepting our invitation and to inauguration of the conference. We would like to thank our Principal Director and CEO, Dr. Brigadier Amarjit Singh Sir. We also express our gratitude to our Director of Academics, Dr. Mrs. P. Vatsala Swami. We are thankful to our Dean, Dr. J.S. Bhavalkar, for his continuous support. We are also thankful to our Director Academics, Dr. A.L. Kakrani. We would like to thank our Registrar, Dr. A.N. Suryakar, and our Controller of Examiner, Mr. M.S. Firange. I would like to put on record our sincere thanks to Dr. Brigadier M.S.V.K. Raju Sir for his encouraging energetic leadership and constant support and encouragement. We would like to thank all HODs, faculties and students for their participation. We would like to thank all HODs of Department of Psychiatry to various medical colleges to allow their students to attend the conference. We thank Dr. Mohana Akashe for accepting our invitation and delivering the keynote address despite his busy schedule. We are also grateful to Dr. Afzal Javed, immediate past president of World Psychiatric Association, for participating in the conference. We are thankful to B.N. Gangadhar, President, Ethics and Medical Registration Board, National Medical Commission, former Vice Chancellor of NIMANS, who despite his busy schedule, agreed to participate in inaugural function. We express our gratitude to Dr. Dinesh Bugra, a renowned psychiatrist, former President of World Psychiatry Association, British Medical Association and Royal College of Psychiatrists. I would like to thank all past presidents, especially Dr. General Waldia, Brigadier P.K. Chakravarti, Dr. M.L. Agrawal for their guidance. We would also like to thank all invited speakers and more than 260 delegates who participate from the India and abroad to make this conference successful. We also thank all supporting non-teaching staff as well as technical staff for providing facilities for smooth conduction of this function. We also thank Sun Pharma for their support. Last but not the least, we thank the Board of Directors of Association of Industrial Psychiatry of India to allow us to hold this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your kind words. We now have the honor of inviting Professor Brigadier Dr. M.S.V.K. Raju and Professor Brigadier Dr. Daniel Saldana as chairpersons to kindly preside over the upcoming session.
Good morning. I think we'll start the proceedings. Firstly, I would like to make a small correction. Dr. Professor Afzal Javed is the current president of the World Psychiatric Association, not the immediate past president. Apologies to him for this mistake or oversight. Well, coming to this session, Padma Shri Professor Mohan Mahadev Agashe is a world celebrity, thespian and thinker. We see him so often among us, and therefore we miss his brilliance. We are blind to his brilliance, actually. He wears his glittering credentials lightly. And like all great people, he is humility personified. In fact, I used to tell all my students that to emulate him. In spite of his, he has been feted and honored all across the world, but he wears lightly on his shoulders and always humble in humility. He's a distinguished psychiatrist that we all know and a maestro of performing arts. He made movies with his own life earnings, made documentaries, and sees films through the eyes of a psychiatrist. I hope one day he will help us in conducting a workshop on film appreciation for psychiatrists. Well, I can go on talking at length about his so many qualities because I know him somewhat closely. But coming to the topic of today, we have limitations of time. We are one of the 3 trillion species on this earth. And as a species, we are but 7.7 billion now. The tiny thing, corona, exposed our insignificance in the larger scheme of things. And it is but natural to Professor Agashe to talk.
What he said is something very vague.
Professor Agashe to talk on the topic of choice.
I don't know why the people...
There is some crosstalk. Hello? Kindly unmute. To choose a topic on one world and one health. Now I request Professor Agashe to come and deliver his lecture, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts. As Brigadier Raju has mentioned, and it's also my experience, that I am known even in the circle of psychiatrists because of my interest in theatre and films. But many of them do not know the fallout of my interest. In fact, it's because of my participation into film and theatre, it was possible for me to work positively for mental health because people would give me a listening ear and a time which I found extremely difficult for simply the mental health professionals to get. Whenever I walked to Mantralaya or Sachivalaya while in government service, I found plenty of my professor friends in the waiting room, waiting to be called by the secretary or the deputy secretary or the minister. Whereas then, if they saw me, immediately they said, "Oh, Dr. Agashe, please come, please come." And before I could open my demands for mental health, they say, "Oh, don't worry, we'll look after that. Tell me, what is the new project? What's the new play? What's the new film?" I realized that, therefore, that these professional organizations separate people from each other. Whereas theatre, film, literature, music, and all arts bring people from diverse fields together. So I realized that arts, any kind of art, is an integrating factor, whereas professional organizations are separating factors because they look after, like today we have this association of industrial psychiatry, then we have association of biological psychiatry, then we have association of social psychiatry. Even within psychiatry, I think there are a lot of other speakers are on. May I kindly request the people managing the show to put other speakers on mute so that there is no disturbance. Thank you. So,
I kindly request everyone to please mute themselves, the ones who are not speaking. Thank you so much.
thank you very much. So, as I was saying, I have found that all art forms, music, theatre, films, they bring people from various disciplines, not only medicine, engineers, architects, housewives, together. They bond people together. Whereas professional organizations separate people and then each one fights for their own rights. This is the picture I see in daily life. Whether it is Indian Medical Association, Engineers Association, or any other association, their primary purpose is to look after their own interest, whereas art definitely serves the interest of other people. That's the reason why I was naturally drawn to people to art and also naturally drawn to psychiatry. Physical medicine, of course, because it's visual, it can be touched, it can be seen, it can be felt, but psychiatry deals with something which neither can be seen nor heard unless you have learned to see, you have learned to listen. And that is why in psychiatry, listening skills. In fact, in one of my films, which deals with depression and suicide in young people, name of the film is Castle, Turtle, which received the President Golden Lotus for the best feature film in the year 2017 for displaying very authentic portrayal of the depression in young man and what can help him to come out of depression. So it was not a documentary, nor an informative, it was a human story. I think still we have not identified the power of the medium of cinema for using it for educational purpose, because for years we have been using this medium only for entertainment. Only reason being, it was so difficult to access this medium because of its cost, unaffordability, and also because it was not the subject of study. But with the advent of digital technology, I think everyone now has an access to camera, sound, script, and it is possible to use the medium in a very inexpensive way and to use it for educational purpose. It still, actually, I say, many of my friends ask me, what are you doing after retirement? Because I retired from my position of a professor of psychiatry in 2005. And for the last 15 years, what I'm doing is, the best way to describe is, I've changed my profession from doctor to smuggler. And then people really go wild. My God, what do you smuggle? I say I smuggle education in the garb of entertainment. Because people like stories. What is the main difference? In the popular cinema, in order to make the film entertaining, a lot of compromise is done on the authenticity of information. Whereas the films I have produced and acted make no compromise on the authenticity of information. So all the information which is given passively to the viewer is based on scientific facts. And this you can verify in all the 5 films made jointly by Sumitra Bhave and me. 2 of them are short films. 3 of them, Astu, which deals with Alzheimer, Kaso deals with depression, Devrai deals with schizophrenia, Sweeter Than Sugar deals with maternal nutrition and fetal outcome, and Touch deals with abuse, sexual abuse of children. The last 2 being short films. The reason I elaborately said how art is an integrating factor obviously led me to think and know more about the concept which is not so old, has come recently, about one word, one health. And what does that mean? It means that how all the disciplines of health, whether they are for human health, whether they are for animal health, whether they are for zoological health, whether they are for plant health, what can integrate them is one word, one health. Because in the system of ecology, all these are interdependent and they are not separate. To make it understandable, let me take an example of our own body and our own systems. For the purpose of studying medicine, from our first year of MBBS to the last year of MBBS, we divide them in number of disciplines: anatomy, physiology, medicine, surgery, etc. But even in all these disciplines, we study different systems. That is respiratory system, cardiovascular system, gastrointestinal, central nervous, locomotor. But what we can't forget is, though for the purpose of study, these systems are independent from functional point of view, they all have to work together in one body to maintain health, to keep health. So, for purpose of understanding, even if we separate disciplines and divide and subdivide science into different disciplines, we cannot afford to forget the basic fact that all these systems are interdependent, and not only in human body, but in order to survive what we eat, if we are eating veg or non-veg. Plant health is very important if we have to eat healthy food. Animal health has to be very important if we are non-vegetarian. So it is our responsibility to see that even the health system in sea and on land are taken care of. And this is the concept of one world, one health. So whether it's human health, veterinary health, social health, since the survival and better survival and better health is interdependent, unless we are constantly aware of ecology and remember that while making our progress in our own field, we do not harm any other part of nature. Because in turn, if we do, it is going to affect our health. And so, having respect for all kinds of health, it is very important that we become aware of this pattern. So while studying mental health, we cannot say that physical health is not my concern, or those who are studying physical health and other systems can't afford to say that I have nothing to do with mental health. Because while living, both work together. There is no illness, there is no health, which is purely physical or purely mental. Mental and physical are like two sides of the same coin, and one is bound to affect the other. It's pure chance which side of the coin is noticed by you first. And because you are a psychiatrist and you notice, I think, have I disappeared? One second. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you see me again? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's just because we are psychiatrists, we basically look at the mental health side first. But don't forget, while you're looking at the mental health side, on the other side is physical health. And the same goes for all my other friends working in different disciplines. And this is only as far as the human health is concerned. But as I explained to you earlier, if you are not concerned and careful about veterinary health, eventually it's going to affect you. Especially in recent years, probably from the Ebola. Suddenly, this fact has made dominant thinking process that all these infectious diseases, which are including corona, if we are not careful about the ecology, it is going to affect human health also. So now ICMR will likely to bring a special issue on One World, One Health and its consequences, and what would be the contributions from all branches of medicine. So I take this opportunity of our international conference on industrial psychiatry, that though we try to go deeper into aspects of health in working place, let us remember that while doing that, we do not forget that it is connected to all other branches of mental health as well as other branches of medicine, and also they are interconnected with animal health, plant health, besides human health. I hope we keep this fact in mind and see the bearing of it, because in future it is going to be far more important. And I think at least the corona time has given us time enough to think clearly about the interdependent nature of health. So I think let us once again become aware of we as a part of the whole, and not we are the leaders and rest everything are the followers. We all together make one world. And similarly, all health systems together make one health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for a very thought-provoking lecture. The human being is a microcosm of the macrocosm that is universe. And I think industrial psychiatry somewhat contributes more to this thought than any other branch of medicine or in fact psychiatry. So this being a keynote address, I don't think we will invite any lectures. I thank you, Professor Mohan Agashe, for an excellent thought-provoking lecture. And we expected this from him, of course. Thank you, sir. And I now invite my co-chair, Brigadier Saldana, to invite the next speaker.
Thank you very much, sir. And I must thank Dr. Mohan Agashe for his brilliant oratory capacity. As we know, he is blended with the industry as well as psychiatry. So I we couldn't have asked for a better man to give a keynote address. Thank you very much, sir. Now I request Colonel Chauhan to take the stage. Colonel Chauhan is the Associate Professor of Psychiatry at FMC Pune. He is a young and dynamic psychiatrist with full vigor and research mind, and he has taken the postgraduate psychiatry at next level. I am very happy that he is doing a very good job by sending us every week, in fact, the postgraduate material, slides and seminars and case reports and all those things. He is so punctual, and he has, in a very young age, he has won commendation from the UN Mission Chief of Staff's commendation in 2011, and he has also held, recently he was awarded the M. Jaffe Award also for his research work on BDNF. I invite him to take the stage and talk to us on the BDNF. Thank you, Colonel Chauhan. Chauhan, please.
Am I able?
Yes, sir, you are.
Thank you very much, sir. My teachers, Brigadier Raju, sir, Brigadier Saldana, Colonel Chaudhary, distinguished faculty, delegates, I thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity on speaking on brain-derived neurotropic factor in depression. I shall be covering my talk under the following headings: introduction, BDNF and synaptic plasticity. Then I'll be talking about my study in depression, current evidence, and finally conclusion. Major depression is a serious neuropsychiatric illness and predicted to be second to ischemic heart disease in terms of premature death or disability. Average lifetime and 12-month prevalence estimate of major depressive episode is about 14.6 and 5.5% in 10 high-income countries, whereas it is 11.1 and 5.9 in 8 low to middle-income countries. As you see, the red, this thing is depression is more prevalent in both developing and developed countries, but African countries have got the higher prevalence of about 7%, whereas the India stands somewhere around 4.5 to 5%. However, when we compare to our neighboring countries, definitely we are the worst. It's about 4.5% of the prevalence, with about 5.7 crore population is currently suffering from depression. In the 2017 National Mental Health Survey revealed that we have doubled the daily disability adjusted life years or measure of overall disease burden in terms of year lost due to the ill health, disability or death from 1990 to 2.5 to 4.7. And depression has got the largest term. It is prevalent across all the ages, and most of the adult population, most of the productive age of our country is currently suffering from depression. Now coming to brain-derived neurotropic factor, which we'll be discussing in detail today, is a 14 kilodalton protein, and it belongs to a neurotropin family, which is the same as nerve growth factor, neurotropin 3 and neurotropin 4. The neurotropin, the trophic word is basically, which is for survival and growth promoting. So nerve growth factor actually was the first one to be discovered in 1950 by Love Montalcini. BDNF was discovered in somewhere in 1980s, And then subsequently, we have other factors like neurotropin 3, 4, interleukins, and various other neurotropin factors. This BDNF is primarily secreted by the neurons. However, the highest levels of it is found in the hippocampus. It basically promotes neurogenesis and causes modulation of neuroplasticity. So how does it causes modulation of synaptic plasticity is, it is the BDNF acts through tropomyosin kappa B, which is through this MAPK, PI3K, AT, and PLC gamma, acts through the cyclic AMP related binding protein, results into dendrite growth and branching and various kinds of neuroplasticity like synapse enhancing, cytoskeleton protein synthesis, and apoptosis activity. So how does this stress, depression, and this bidirectional neural immune interaction, or what we call it as inflammation and pathogenesis of depression? So what happens is, following some challenge, these toll-like receptors gets activated. It activates the natural filler kappa B cells, which causes increase in the cytokines like chemokines, interleukin 1, interleukin 6, tumor necrosis factor. And through the leaky channels of the blood-brain barrier, it's into the central nervous system. So these cytokines, brain-derived neurotropic factor, serotonin, dopamine, and CRA. BDNF in the background of the stress results into depression. So what happens is stress leads to increase in the HPA axis activity, results into increased secretion of glucocorticoids, reduction in BDNF, which results into reduced dendritic branching and causing apoptosis and cell atrophy, primarily in the region of hippocampus. So what is neurotropin hypothesis of depression? In a normal person, we have a normal survival and growth curve of various CA3 cells in the parahippocampus region. So following a stress, there is an increased glucocorticoids resulting in reduced BDNF, resulting into cell atrophy, causing increased vulnerability, neuronal insult, and genetic factors. However, when we give antidepressant for treatment, there is an increased levels of BDNF, causing neurogenesis, increased survival, and increased growth, increased dendritic branching, and resulting into not only the improvement in depression, but the cell neurogenesis and the neuroplasticity, which got affected because of the depression, gets corrected and it gets restored. So what we have found that the enriched environment, physical exercise, mental stimulation, and social interaction, as well as antidepressants, is need to cause increase in BDNF, resulting into more of neurogenesis, more of cell synapses, more of cell connections, more of maturation. Whereas maternal deprivation, childhood trauma, stress, lack of activity results into reduce in neuronal activity, especially of resulting in reduced BDNF, resulting into cell atrophy or cell apoptosis in the region of hippocampus. So what does the review of literature when we talk about BDNF and depression says? There is a WEL66MET, a natural occurring polymorphism which occurs in the human BDNF, resulting in valine to methionine substitution of the codon at 66, which causes mechanism of good neuroplasticity. However, the studies have found that MET-BDNF allele carries at a risk to develop smaller hippocampal volume and susceptible to major depression as compared to WEL-BDNF factor. Further meta-analysis also confirmed that the MET variant of BDNF is actually responsible for association of stress causing depression. when in the same meta-analysis, they have stratified for the stress and they have only measured for childhood adversity, this MET variant was not found to be significant. So this was the genetic polymorphism, the result of the study. So how do we assess, why do we assess BDNF in cases of depression? What has found by the various researchers is that higher neuroticism scores are associated with low BDNF levels, suggesting that BDNFs can be measured in mood disorders. The blood and plasma levels of BDNF levels were found to be similar to hippocampus blood levels in the published literature. So this was the path-breaking study which has told us that we can measure the peripheral levels of BDNF from serum or plasma and come to a conclusion that we can actually level the levels which are found in hippocampus. So this is a very important path-breaking study that has led us to various studies all over the world as BDNF as a biomarker for depression. Further studies have revealed that the decreased serum BDNF levels in drug-free patient with depression is low compared to healthy controls. In various meta-analyses, it has been found that the levels of BDNF were ranging from 20 to 25 in the cases, and as compared to the controls which were in the range of 30 to 35 nanogram per ml. Low serum BDNF was found in the first episode depression and recurrent depressive disorder in the study of 85 subjects compared to control. This is an Indian study by Jinger et al. And they found that whether it is a first episode of depression or recurrent depressive disorder, low serum BDNF as compared to control. Does the BDNF correlates with the depression severity? We have some studies which are suggesting that they correlate with the severity of depression. However, study of 962 drug-free depressed patients by Mollinger et al. Have found that it did not correlate with the severity of depression or with the number of episodes. Further literature, when we are talking about neurotropin hypothesis of depression, that following an antidepressant treatment, what happens? So in this meta-analysis by Armugam et al., they have found that with 4 to 6 weeks of treatment, there is an increase in serum BDNF level with across all the range of, most of the studies were done with SSRI, but across all the range of SSRIs and one SNRI which was used in the study, they found that there is an increase in BDNF level and with the clinical improvement of depression. This study from Mans, Leppa, NG et al. Have found that there is yoga therapy itself or learn in combination with medication is associated with improved neuropsychological functioning and neuroplastic effects in patients with depression. So this is again a good study, and they found that even with yoga therapy, they found some improvement or some increase in BDNF levels with the clinical improvement of depression. Now, with this knowledge gap, we went ahead and as we found that very few Indian studies on correlation of BDNF levels and depression, few studies on correlation of BDNF levels with severity of depression and follow-up treatment response in Indian population. So we have taken this study with an aim to study serum BDNF levels in never treated patients with depression and relate this to severity of depression and treatment response. The cases for the consecutive never treated patient with depression in the age of 18 to 60 years with exclusion criteria of intellectual disability, substance use disorder, central nervous system disorder, symptomatology of psychosis, bipolar disorder, catatonia, and treated depression cases. The controls were age and education matched healthy consenting body. 60 cases of never treated depression and 60 controls were enrolled in the study from 1st January 2016 to 31st December 2016. Sociodemographic data was collected, informed consent was obtained, and Hamilton rating scale of depression was assessed. And simultaneously, venous blood was collected for BDNF from both the cases as well as controls. all the cases were given antidepressant tablet escitalopram 10 to 20 milligram per day. And following 4 weeks of treatment, Hamilton Rating Scale of Depression was reassessed and venous blood for BDNF was collected only for cases. This was the kit used in my study, that is human BDNF ELISA kit. It was a 5 ml venous blood was drawn at between 9 to 11 m. Serum was separated after 30 minutes by centrifugation, and the serum BDNF level was measured by using the ELISA reader, and which was repeated after 4 weeks of therapy. Hamilton Rating Scale of Depression is a 17-item objective rating scale, and the scores are as below calculated for all the patients. What we have found is the mean age of our patient was 32.38 years. Monthly income was 22,450. 70% were males and 30% were females. The median score of Hamilton Rating Scale was 18.5 among cases pre-treatment, and following treatment it was 5. The BDNF levels pre-treatment was 18.56 and which increased to 22.29 post-treatment, and it was significant. So what we found that the scatter plot shows that the Spearman correlation between Hamilton Rating Scale for depression and BDNF shows a negative correlation, implying that with increase in HRSD score, the BDNF levels were reduced, suggesting that there is, with the severity of depression, the BDNF levels further reduces. So what has happened in the scatter plot showing the Spearman correlation following between HRSD and BDNF levels after treatment of cases, what we found, there was no significant correlation, implying that however there is an improvement, clinical improvement in depression, however in pari passu the BDNF levels did not increase to that much level, implying that some symptoms of depression probably persist even in the remission phase. The HRSD scores of the control and the post-treatment were almost about 2 and 5. The post-controls were 32.41 nanogram per ml, which was much higher than the BDNF cases post-treatment, that is 22.29. So it is actually does not restore to the original level as per the present study. When we further assess that the BDNF levels increased maximum in which severity of descent, whether it was mild, moderate, severe, or very severe, what we found, it was significant for various very severe depression, suggesting that the antidepressant has got a role in much severe depression, has definitely a role in depression, severity of depression, and with the increase of BDNF levels most seen in the severe depression cases compared to mild, moderate, and very severe depression. The strength was that it was a translational research. However, there were limitations in our studies. The data collected not considering causative factors like childhood adversity, physical exercise. The serum BDNF were assumed to be same as BDNF levels in brain, though we have a study to say that they were similar. The confounding factors, as I said, is physical activity, smoking, and BMI was not factored, and sample size was moderate, and study had comparable lesser female cases, like we had only 30% cases, 70% were males. So the study concluded that the never treated cases of depression had statistically significant low BDNF levels compared to the controls. The low serum BDNF levels increased after 4 weeks of treatment. BDNF levels showed significant negative correlation with depression severity. However, we require further robust studies involving large centers with taking care of confounding factors to come to level as a biomarker for depression. So what is the current evidence we have? Do we have a translation perspective at BDNF as a diagnostic test? There is an increased finding that BDNF causes neuronal plasticity and neurogenesis. There is an evidence that blunt expression of BDNF and lower BDNF levels are found in depression. The meta-analysis has also confirmed that the antidepressants and ECT increases BDNF levels. However, physical exercise, psychotherapy, or direct current stimulation has not shown increase in BDNF levels. So what are the challenges we have at present, despite we have a clear evidence that there is a reduction in BDNF levels in cases of depression? Whether that relationship is with the severity, whether it persists during the remission phase, it also can tell you about the relapse cases. So this we have to find out. Whether it's a direct effect of the BDNF in hippocampus or it is an augmented expression of BDNF after antidepressant. Whether the long-term antidepressant therapy and maintenance is required for persistent level or coming back to at the level of control. Whether the response to other treatment options, whether we have seen that in meta-analysis, physical activity and psychotherapy does not lead to increase in BDNF levels. Then we have to consider factors like age, sex, and ethnicity. And then we have to factor the ideal measurement of BDNF, and we have to conclude with various studies that the serum or the plasma levels of BDNF actually correlates with BDNF levels in the hippocampus. So better laboratory techniques for peripheral BDNF detection must minimize important heterogeneity factors like patient environment, childhood adversity, genetic polymorphism, and must explore the potential direct BDNF effects, especially with acute antidepressants like ketamine. So finally, to conclude, we have neurotropin hypothesis of depression, which says that the stress-induced downregulation of BDNF mRNA expression in hippocampus and prefrontal cortex results in cell loss and cell atrophy in cases of depression. There are different classes of antidepressant which significantly increase the expression of BDNF in the major subfields of the hippocampus. The challenges in various spheres of diagnosis and assessment need to be addressed, and future researchers are required before we clarify BDNF as a biomarker. Thank you, sir. I've finished, sir.
That was an excellent study and delivered excellently. Of course, he expected from him that he would do that. He's talking about translational aspect of BDNF. We did a study on ECT and BDNF at Bharati. What we have seen is the BDNF was parity there at actually week 1 after the first two ECTs. That is one. Second is about the translational aspect. How will we translate this for treatment? But probably there is a problem because BDNF doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier unless you devise some sort of a carrier which can carry the molecule across the BBB and produce therapeutic. That is an interesting area of study, but I don't know. People are not doing that study. So maybe there is some more hitches. As you said, the polymorphisms maybe or some other factors may be hindering research in that area. But it's a wonderful study. If the time permitting, I think we can have 1 or 2 questions. Over to Brigadier Saldanha is back.
Sir, we can have questions session because we are running ahead of time, and next program is at 1 o'clock since Professor Bugra will be online only at 1 o'clock. So we can have question and answers. Plus we will have a 10 minutes recession before we come again. We can have tea or something like that. And
okay. Now it is open for question and answers.
Yes. I had asked in the chat box people to send the questions. You will be surprised in the delegates login room. There are more than 190 who are listening. So I hope 190, over 190.
Wonderful.
That is very heartening.
Tremendous.
Vinay, your lecture has been a tremendous boost to the young researchers. I must say that they should undertake all these interventions and especially depression. As you said, it is one of the most frequent disorders in our setup. One should try and explore. the possible ways we can mitigate the depression. If there are any questions, please shoot. If there are none, then we'll take a brief recess for about 10 minutes and we'll come back again at 1 o'clock, 5 to 1.
Okay.
And we'll continue Professor Bugra's talk.
Vinay, I think this is a wonderful study. You must carry forward into what you call a translational aspect. And probably you can replicate this study on ECT also. And magnetic, I think that is the one
RTMS.
You must expand this study. This is a wonderful study. Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vinay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We'll have a brief recess for about 10 minutes before we come back again. Okay, please stay on. Please stay on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.